Good morning and welcome to the broadcast to you. And today we are quoting a gravel driveway, my favorite type of a job, and we're just going to get right to it. Today I'm going to do a little bit different on this video. It's not going to be as heavily edited. That way you guys can see exactly what I go through from start to finish, from measuring everything off to coming up with the final quote. So let's jump into it. Let's see, we got just a little flurry of the snow last night. Trade zero this guy. Uh-oh, our little clicker's frozen. All right, got my clicker. Had to hold it in front of the heater to get it to work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start right here. This driveway is not in really bad shape at all. Thing I noticed, it doesn't have a ditch going down this side, but you can see how water is kind of cutting little trails here. Maybe you guys can see the shape of that road. There's been a water break at one time right here. This is going to be a super easy project. Super easy. Easy to quote too, because it's a standard road width wide. We'll measure it off for being 10 feet. Now up here, the neighbors did some regrading on the other side of this fence, so I'm just going to have to cut a little diversion right through here. Or build one. I haven't fully decided how I'll do that, but that won't cost too much. Let's see. All right, we've got right at 200 linear feet so far. Now we're going to want to double the width of this parking area. So let's do this. That's 232 feet, which will put us at, that was 30 more feet. So we'll say 260 feet total linear length. Let me reset my little clicker here. And let's just double check how wide this is. Yep, 10 feet. 10 feet wide, so 260 by 10 feet. Now we're going to go somewhere warmer, and we will, you and I, fix this quote together. I'm going to try to be as thorough as I can and let you guys see exactly what I'm doing here. The first thing we need to figure out is how far it is from our equipment yard, which conveniently is where we're sitting, to the job. On a map that I use Google Maps, and by car is 22 minutes. So by truck, roughly 30 minutes in time. 30-minute haul. So that gives us a total of, you know, accounting for traffic and stuff, let's say an hour and a half of hauling equipment time. Okay, now let's change the location of where we're at, and we're going to put in the quarry that we're going to haul out of. And that total will come to, that's a 26-minute run, so adding 15 minutes to that, roughly, we'll say 40 minutes trip, which seems a little high, but we definitely want to have a margin for error, getting stuck in traffic, being held up, and all that stuff. So quarry to the job, yeah, we'll go 40 minutes. Now we've got to figure out our number of loads. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my materials calculator, which is conveniently in my recent searches because I do a ton of driveways. It's important you guys subscribe if you're new to the channel, because every driveway is different. Every quote is different. The total length we had was 260 feet. The width was 10 feet. To do just a touch-up on this job is going to take, we'll grade, and if we don't get into a lot of dirt, we'll say about 4 inches of compacted material. That's 60 tons. Total tonnage is 60. As always, I'm going to quote this as if I'm going to haul all of this with my truck. I haul comfortably 9 tons at a time. 9. So that's 6.6, so we'll say 7 loads. Of material. So if we have 7 loads and each run to the quarry one way is 40 minutes, we're going to double that. 40 times 2. That's 80 minutes per round trip of running. Multiply that by the 7 loads. It's 560 minutes. Divide that by 60. So we've got a total of 9.3 hours. Now I'm actually going to use that number. We're going to, well, let's make it easy for everybody. Let's do 9.5. $9.5 hours hauling stone. Now I'm going to add in here if they want the roller. That's $550. I don't own the machine. I have to rent it. I have to go get it, haul it, and operate it. So $550 if they want the roller. Roller wanted. So we're starting to get our numbers all together here. Now, how long is it going to take me to grade this driveway? Not very long. Not very long at all. So I'm going to ponder on this for a minute. You guys don't need to just sit there and stare at me. So let me ponder on this and I'll come back to you with what I decide. I've got several ways thought up here to express to you guys how I can figure these numbers. What's important is not necessarily just the numbers to you, but what's important is how I come up with those numbers. That way you can modify these formulas or ways of coming up with prices to suit your local economy. The first way is itemizing each and every single thing. Such as we have to have 63 tons to build this road up 4 inches. The cost of the material is right at $1,200. Now material hauling, if I were to haul it myself in my truck, comes to $1,781. $1,782 roughly. Now grading, I can do as a flat rate, and our 1-day minimum is $1,500. That's a number that we have come up with based on our overhead, operating expenses, just a huge number of things to list off, and they are too variable really to list off because all of you out there are operating so differently. But for us, if we can't get 1 day's work, $1,500 for grading and just all miscellaneous things, we cannot afford to take that job. And that's why we have that minimum. Based on these numbers, the job total would come to $4,478. Now, another way that I could have figured this, and you can come up with your per load number however you guys want. You can figure it by the mile, by the hour. I know some guys who charge by the ton. They'll charge, say, $5 per ton haul bill plus the amount of material, which I've never understood that, but some guys do it that way, and maybe it's tax purposes, I don't know. So this is a totally separate way of figuring this. If you are very familiar with your area and you know how much you charge per load to a given area, a given distance, or a given amount of time driving to get to a customer, this can work for you. Now for this particular customer in this particular place, and this varies greatly here in the mountains, because if we're hauling down in the valley, it's a lot cheaper. It doesn't take as much wear and tear on the truck and fuel as it does to get to the peaks of these mountains, which it can, from the bottom to the top of a mountain, can be 30 minutes. This particular customer for 9-ton load is $400. Now I always load with at least, if I'm charging by a load to a customer, at least 9 tons. You can never get it exactly 9 tons. So most of the time my customers get between 9 1/4 to 9 3/4 tons in the truck. I always get them a little bit more than the 9 tons, always. So for this customer, the total material, if I figured it by the load, which it's 7 loads, would be $2,800 plus the 1-day flat rate, $1,500. Now once you start getting these numbers where you can just charge by the load, that's a really easy, really quick way to figure up a quote. Now by this way of figuring, it works to the customer's advantage. It's $4,300 even for that job. Now the next way to figure this, and I did this a lot last year, I figured charges by per 100 feet of driveway. Last year it was $1,500 per 100 feet for this type of a driveway, this amount of material to this location. I got it that close. It worked really, really well. Now we had 262 feet. Now bear in mind, I said last year the average inflation rate is between 3 and I believe 5% every year. So what I did was I took my normal $1,500 per 100 feet from last year, added 3% to that. That gets us to $1,545 per 100 feet for this year. If you keep operating at the same price every year, you're going to slowly make less and less and less every year, and that's not the idea. You want to, if nothing else, keep your standard of living. In order to do that, you have to make 3% more. You guys chime in the comments anything I'm leaving out here. I'm just trying to give people a rough idea of how I do things. So at $1,545 per 100 feet at 262 feet, you multiply that $1,545 by 2.6. Now this works even better to the customer's advantage. And let me just double check this, because I've got two numbers written down here. $1,545 times 2.6, $4,017. So make a note of that, $4,017. So we're hovering around the same numbers every time, and they shouldn't vary greatly. So we've gone from a total of $4,478 to $4,300 on down to $4,000 even. That is 3 separate ways to figure this. Now you can either pick the number that you like the most. What I like to do is sometimes figure, what is this job worth to me? You know, I want to look at the customer's job, and even though I'm coming up with these numbers, and I do preach, you know, you come up with your numbers by your formulas, you give that to the customer. Sometimes it works to your advantage to look at the job and be like, how much of a difference am I going to make by doing this? Is this a $4,000 improvement? That can be the difference between you giving a good number that you feel good about and a number you don't feel good about. Now, just to make a quick note, some people may be like, well, $45 more for the inflation rate, that's not worth fooling with. Why would I even consider that? Trust me, guys and gals, by the time you pay for your payments on equipment, wear and tear on equipment, just all your overhead, insurance, unforeseen things. You got to pay yourself. We pay me a weekly salary, and once all that overhead comes off, you've got this golden little nugget of money left over. Well, guess what? Uncle Sam wants, from me, about 30% of that golden nugget. So there are going to be people who don't run businesses. You're going to give them quotes like this, and they're going to seem high, and some people will freak out. They'll think you're a crook, but they don't know all your overhead. Most people have never run a business. They have no clue that you're paying 10 grand in insurance just on your truck or trucks. They have no idea, and they're only reacting to what you're telling them and how that number compares to the kind of money they make. And they're not the owner of a business, so they're making a very, very small chunk of that money. And when you come to them with these bills that has to support a business, it can shock some people. And some people can be really ugly about it. I'm telling you, my own viewers once in a while, they think, well, that much for that load, you're robbing them. And that just tells me that those people more than likely aren't running a business. And if they are, it's not a very successful one. You got to be understanding of your customers and be nice to them. Even if they freak out, if you have to, take the mentality, I feel sorry for them. That, or I understand that they can't comprehend what I'm dealing with. They can't comprehend. Most people that I know, if I told them the numbers that I'm operating under, they'd have a heart attack. They would say, how do you make it? The amount of money we have to make every month just to break even is staggering, to think that one guy working has to make that. And that's why these numbers come out to what they are. You don't have to stand there and explain yourself to every single customer. But on multiple occasions, I have just given the cost of a blowout of a commercial tire to a customer. And they are like, you can give them just a couple of things. And sometimes helping them understand makes them feel better about paying you for the job. It helps them understand what you're having to pay for. I don't know if all of this is helping you guys, but really, it's going to help you in the long run too, if you realize that somebody's freaking out because they don't understand. And most humans, we freak out over stuff we don't understand. It's just how it is. Also, a last note on this, I am going to give this customer multiple material options. And you guys are smart enough. If you're not smart enough to understand this next part, you probably need to keep working your job, or, spend some more time researching and planning. I'm going to give them the option to double the amount of their material. That's going to allow me to build this road up thicker and shape it even better. And the farther you can get that material away from the sublayer of dirt, the less likely that rainwater and snow melt off is going to be able to soak through to that dirt. Now, if you're in a very wet climate like this, I would encourage people to put road fabric down every single time to keep that dirt from mixing with the gravel. I'm also going to give this person an option to just do a light touch-up grade to that long part of the driveway and just put some wash stone down. I could stretch out 1-2 loads that whole distance and it be functional. It wouldn't last as long. I'm not going to be able to grade it necessarily as good, but there's just so many options, and you need to give all those options to your customers so they have plenty to mull over and plenty to take in. And unless you're just way out of their budget, more than likely they're going to look at all these options you're giving them, and that's going to be all the quotes that they're going to need to make a decision. They will not need to call 3 or 4 or 5 other contractors to get all these options. You are giving them all these options. You are willing to work with them, and people are going to like if you're a friendly person, if you're understanding, and if they freak out, you remain calm. they're going to want to keep working with you because you give them a sense of calm. You give them a sense of stability. Hopefully this video has helped you guys. I'm going right now to another driveway job, and we're going to be doing more quotes, and I'm going to give you guys more and more examples of how you can get your start in excavation and grading, doing simple parking pads, simple gravel driveways, things you can do even with hand tools. So be sure to subscribe, ding the bell, and benefit from the next video. Thanks guys for joining me. We love you, and we will see you at the next driveway.